the quality of this looks compared to
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Streamlabs. I think it's fine for like website sharing.
Yeah,
Although at some point
video sharing is maybe less good,
that's not
but
really what
gaming,
we do today.
yeah.
But also, hello and welcome if anybody's watching the
Hey,
replay. It is Wednesday, April 23rd,
it's
2025.
Wednesday, my dudes. Let's see, the votes are in, I think, 13 minutes ago. Nice. Let's see, I voted for today is DeFi day. I always vote on my, I guess it hasn't populated yet since it's only been 13 minutes. But I should be able to see here who I voted for. ETH and Eurocoin, which is also from Circle. It's like the same issuer as your USDC, also does EURC. Let's see. But I think it paid close to $6 for the week of voting. And it should be paid out in euros and ETH. So that'll be fun. This is just the voting from Aerodrome. We've done this a while ago. But let me go to something more familiar right now. I was also looking through the different farms and stuff going on Wax. It's been a minute since we looked over what's going on Wax wise.
Rock Metal is saying this is a completely side note, but you can host websites on GitHub, I guess.
Oh, really?
So I might look into trying to host our websites on GitHub, because then we wouldn't have to pay Squarespace, which is one of our biggest expenses right now. We'll have to look into that after.
Yeah. Damn, I don't recognize most of these tokens.
I'm sure Wombat is still a thing. Weren't they going to change that into some new token?
Right? I thought so too. Let's see. Still a few Wombat pools. Nothing crazy deep though. These are all just like a few Wombat. It's like only 58 Wombat, 900.
21K LS Wax isn't nothing.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah, Play token. They announced that like last summer or something. They were like last September, so I'm surprised.
Yeah,
it's not a thing yet if they're still working on it. I also have pretty much completely checked out of the Wombat ecosystem, though. I don't know what they're working on.
Yeah, that's true. It's true for me too. Although I think the Wombat token was always like the rewards for their like game, which I think it's not super surprising that like the trajectory has been like, just sell pressure. But yeah, Wombat's still kind of a big one. Let's see what other kind of analytics we can see on the Wax right now. Looks like there is, $10 million in Alcor, huh? I feel like that's valuing a lot of shitcoins, though, isn't it? That feels like a lot.
What?
$10 million of total value in Alcor?
For Wombat?
For all of Alcor. I still feel like that's too much. There's no way there's $10 million worth of liquidity on Alcor.
Like
I'd be surprised if it was like $1 million.
Makes sense.
I don't know, because like the Wax USDC pool has like 1.1 million Wax. 23. That's like, this pool is maybe like $60,000. Wax TLM. Like, yeah, also less than 60, less than 50 probably. There's no way with like the biggest volume pools on here being less than 100K that the total is 10 million.
I guess that doesn't make sense. It's probably from like shit coins that are pumping in value.
I think it's got to be something weird. Yeah, okay, something super weird, because like it says TVL was like, what is that, 100,000 million, $195 billion. That definitely never happened. I feel like these are probably more accurate. It is always fun to see, I guess. Like you can check what legitimate pools are getting volume wise. So I'd say doing $200,000 in volume on Wax USDC, that seems accurate for a 30-day volume. So that's probably mostly accurate then, I'd say. Let's see who's getting the most volume these days, though. It seems like Wombat is still near the top of that list after TLM and Wax and the stable coins. Wombat and Woof and Brawl. Brawl is still in the mix, top 10. Damn. Let's see, Brawl is cooking here. How's Brawl been cooking? Oh. Damn. This doesn't go super far back, but in terms of Wax, not bad if you had been chilling with your Brawl.
It was pumping the other week. I don't remember.
That's a very limited amount of people in this pool. There's only like 4 wallets participating in Brawl liquidity. For the 10th top pool, that's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm curious to see what like other tokens are near the top here. Woof, Ellis Wax, so the Wax stake derivatives. That makes sense too. Oh, Soren. This one I'm not familiar with at all. But it's putting up 15 top volume here. An Agar. These kind of look similar-ish. I don't know. BFX too. Yeah, I'm out of the loop. On page 2, I'm already lost with mostly PGL. I'm familiar with still, and then Marsha I'm familiar with. Agar is Tree NFT Peeps. Oh, okay. The Tree NFT. I'm not sure with that one either, though. Makes sense. So there's a little tree icon here. Agar?
I'm not sure if I know what Agar is. Sounds familiar, but
they got 15,000 wax on the Wax side.
What's the contract for it?
Let's see. That is Agar is the top
called
wallet.
Agar.
Right. That's the top wallet holding it too. This one has actually like a decent like community of liquidity.
Rockmetal said they airdropped packs to a ton of wallets a month or so ago.
Oh, interesting.
And Random Music said, I almost lost everything in my MetaMask wallet. I'll tell a quick story later. That sounds
shit.
scary.
Damn. Oh, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad it says
almost. Almost
yeah.
is the good word there.
That's wild. Here, looking at the Bitcoin, like let's look at the market really quick here. Or I guess we can keep browsing around on some stuff here. Zoomed out pretty far. Let's see. Let's keep looking around.
MetaMask is only worth $40, so that wouldn't have been that devastating.
Oh, you almost lost everything, and my MetaMask made it sound pretty high stakes.
Still, even losing $40 worth of shit is not good.
Yeah. What is this? Wrapped Bitcoin? Wax wrapped Bitcoin? Or what is this one? Wax WBTC.
My guess is that's a scam.
Right? There's nowhere that there's one whole Wax WBTC in this side either.
For $30, you could just bridge it back and get rich.
Yeah, it's definitely like fractional. Very little. I see. I mean, someone's trying to buy into it, it looks like, with USDC. So this might be the real bridged Bitcoin. It's
just weird. It says it's one full. I guess it couldn't display a fraction.
Yeah, that is definitely strange. So, Buzz. Bitcoin. Buzz was also one that I saw like sort of long time already, and that one's also just been kind of like climbing, I think, in terms of Wax or dropping. I don't know. I guess dropping. Or I guess this would be climbing, right? Because this is how many thousand Buzz it is, I believe. So it's, yeah, like that. Buzz has just been cooking, which I think Buzz also, like, they LP with like a bunch of stuff. Like they randomly made a pool with like FTW and that kind of stuff.
Rock
And I
Metal
was
said I
watching
sold
it.
most of them right away and made like $15, which is a lot for wax. Held on to 3 of the common tree NFTs, staked them, was getting like 3 to 8 wax per week from that, which is nice. But yield is
Oh,
constantly
nice.
decreasing, so we'll probably flip them when the time is right. I guess it's some sort of like new staking game.
Interesting. I wonder if I got airdropped any.
I didn't know there's still a demand for that on wax.
Let me see. I guess I should just
I
look
guess
at my
people are
wallet
still
here.
into Twitchy Tides, which is essentially like a staking game.
Let's see. It would have gotten dropped to this wallet, I guess. No, I don't think so.
You might have had to sign up for it in some way.
Oh, my Spider-Man NFT. This is pretty cool. I remember when they did these.
That's a pretty big deal. AMC collabing with friggin' wax.
I'm pretty sure I bought this like relatively recently too. Yeah, here. Sales. 134 wax is what I spent on that. Lowest is listed at 160, so let's go. It's like $3. I definitely spent money on it. I was just like, I want one of these. This collection.
Ralph says they have a solid looking website if you want to check it out. Staking for now, but supposedly some real game coming eventually, question mark. That sounds about like every other project that launched on wax.
Yeah.
Staking now, game later, question mark.
Yeah, game later? I don't know, maybe. I'm still looking. Oh, Tide is on here. Top 50 at least, or 33rd place right now. We're sorted by 30-day volume. I think.
The Spider-Man NFTs came out in like 2021 or 2022.
Oh yeah, these are old school.
And it was like the way you got them is you had to go buy a ticket to Spider-Man, and then like
2021.
If you scanned your ticket, I believe you could claim a Spider-Man NFT. Like it was somehow linked to like
yeah.
It wasn't like a VIRL, but it was like the IRL thing was linked to the digital thing, and you had to go see the movie to do it.
This was another one of those. This was another one of those where recently I like saw these again, and I was like, you know what? Now that like wax collapsed and some people listed these for like whatever, like now I can actually like justify spending like
you should go to
100
history and
wax
show the
or
highest
something.
sales though. Like they were selling for like an absurd amount at one point. So I remember liking them and just being like, yeah, like
$16,000. Jesus Christ! But yeah, like 2,000 was like regular for a while. Like some of the rares would sell for thousands of dollars.
That was also like, when was that? 2022
for a while too. Oh yeah,
2021.
End of 2020. These are OG. Like
end of 2020. That was also like when wax. That's like when Farmers World was still popping off, and like money was just flowing through everything on wax. like this was like, oh, you look at it now. There's zero demand or interest in this, just because it dropped on wax at the time, and everybody was printing money in all the games they're playing. Like people are spending dumb money on all this stuff.
One of them sold this month, and then 2 months ago, there was a couple of sales. It looks like.
Yeah, but they're not
for sales
for $150.
Damn.
After you bought yours.
Yeah, this one is pretty cool. I mean, this is another one of those where like I still have like wax, like a couple hundred wax, and then I can go revisit these and like scoop something like this one. I don't hate this.
The art is actually really cool though.
Right.
I remember saying that when it came out. I was like, this is actually like cooler than I was expecting for a freebie with a movie ticket. Like they put in some effort on these NFTs.
Yeah, they're dope. So I like the one I showed in my wallet. I think I bought that one, but I had also redeemed one from like the actual movie ticket back then too. It is fun though to see like these.
I wish wax was doing like this. We've beat the dead horse, but it's like this is what wax did well.
This is fucking fun too. Like I still
this is what like brought real collectors and stuff to the chain.
100 grand for this one.
Whatever they're doing right now, which is essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing as far as onboarding new people goes. They're doing technical stuff in the background, but that's not onboarding anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff works really well, I felt like. And
I don't know how many people had onboarded. I don't know how many people
That's
just like
true.
went and tried to get the NFTs that were already on Wax that were like, I'm going to see this movie 35 times and just keep selling the NFTs because they're so expensive.
Yeah, there's also these. You remember these? I own Ape and I own AMC, I think was the other one. Oh, here, I own
Yeah.
AMC. And then they like airdropped you these gold mines and stuff. These were also just like, sign up on with your like email or whatever. And
Yeah, this was, you had to be a part of AMC, like holding AMC stock.
yeah,
No. We were just here when this was happening. So I don't know how we found stuff like this. Like
right.
we kind of knew everything that was happening on Wax for multiple years.
This was
And
fun too. I still have like multiple of these too.
another
Looks
one
like
I would say to check out, Rock Metal said she's looking for like in old interesting collections that I've never come across. And I'd say the not Hot Wheels, NASCAR is another one where like
oh
there's
yeah,
officially
NASCAR.
licensed NASCAR NFTs on Wax that almost nobody knows about. You could only get them if um you could only get these if you bought season tickets to NASCAR and they were like airdropped to season ticket holders, but there's never a drop or anything to the Wax community. So these kind of like flew under the radar. In my opinion, like, I don't know, Daytona shit's like massive property, like real
Yeah.
sports.
Here, let me change this to listing newest and see what kind of stuff is on this.
Yeah, because they never actually did a drop on Atomic Hub or like whatever, like nobody
Oh,
on
dropped.
Wax knew anything about this collection, but I remember seeing it pop up.
Let's see what their artwork looks like.
And I don't know that there is like a way built to find that stuff right now. You just have to like
Yeah,
stumble into it. There isn't like a history of Wax collections guide, like no one that I know of. And yeah, you could go look through old people's wallets, but everybody has different tastes. So like
yeah, for sure.
the person holding the Spider-Man thing isn't necessarily going to be holding the NASCAR thing.
And there's so
Or the
many
AMC
wallets that
thing.
only have the Spider-Man or only AMC thing because it was like so tied to the real world side where people like got into it that way and then like, redeemed it but never like did anything beyond that and probably forgot about their wallet.
I think the other ones, Hot Wheels was super legitimate when it was
Hot
happening.
Wheels is the I actually really like the Hot Wheels ones.
Hot Wheels moved to like Ethereum or like Avalanche or something, but they had VIRLs where you could like take the rarest rarities and then get real Hot Wheel cars, and they were
Yeah.
making some. They made some serious money on Wax. I don't know why like some of these. I don't know like the exact behind the scenes of why some of these companies left Wax, but like they were printing money, so I don't know why
Yeah.
they would leave. Same with like MLB and stuff too. Like I don't know why they left when like they were making a lot of money here. And all the problems were getting eaten by the Wax team as far as like credit card fraud and shit. Like the Wax team was just taking those losses. They weren't charging their like the people they were onboarding.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like maybe the Wax team was like, we don't want to do this anymore because we're losing too much money. But I don't understand why like
Yeah.
they would all
These
try
are
to
cool
ditch
though.
the blockchain and go elsewhere. And then pretty much all failed miserably on other blockchains. Like all the examples of like MLB leaving, I think they
Right.
shut down their own platform. I remember seeing that where they're like, yeah, we just can't do this platform anymore. You can bridge it to Ethereum, but our like Avalanche thing is just done that we built.
Yeah. That was sad because like these are dope.
I was always hoping they would like
Have a little game where you can play in these
yeah.
cars because they already like have the
Honestly,
animated
like
CG model and stuff. How much harder is it to
I don't
like
know what Sammy would sell Nova Rally for, but they should just bought like the
yeah.
Nova Rally shit from Sammy and put in Hot Wheels graphics and then just let people simulate and bet on Hot Wheel races. Like that would have been huge.
Yeah, of course. There's all the tops: Godzilla, Garbage Pail Kids, MLB is like the biggest one, which I'm sure you
Garbage
didn't
Pail
miss
Kids is
that.
kind of like the OG of what got people, like the people that were on to Wax before
I
we were, is
like
because
these
of Garbage
too.
Pail Kids. Like Garbage Pail Kids brought in the original, like anybody that's on Wax that wasn't there for fucking like I like EOS and proof of stake, like for the
Yeah,
super nerdy technical aspect is there because of Garbage Pail Kids that was there before us. And then Alien
yeah,
Worlds, like the Alien Worlds land sale was December of 2020, and then we got in, I would think like March 2021. So like
yeah,
by the time we got in, like we'd missed the Alien World lands packs were so fucking cheap when you look at them compared to like, I mean, they've dropped in price considerably from what they once were, but even now, like I want to say it was like $15 to $20 for an Alien Worlds land pack when they first dropped. It was like one of the best things you could have bought on Wax, and I think Burst was
oh yeah,
around back then, which is why he has so much of that shit. Or like shortly after, where he could buy it on the aftermarket. But
Yeah, these are
Yeah,
dope.
before Alien Worlds and that stuff, it was Garbage Pail Kids was about all that was going on this chain.
There's a Garbage Pail Kids PFP as well.
That one flopped really hard.
It flopped, but it's around. Like if you, let's see, it's GPK, I think.
It's the second one, the Nifty Kids. Those are so cheap now. That's hilarious. How much is a pack though? Honestly, those packs were close to $100 when they were.
Yeah, the pack. You can get a pack for $5 fucking bucks.
Honestly, I might buy one of those.
I have to scoop. This isn't like, because I would like this when this came. They look fucking like just horrific too, which I like.
The problem is they were charging NFT prices.
This
is when everything was like wax was cooking, so they were like, yeah, we'll do like $100 draw. It's just like at the time nothing was $100 on wax. Like it might have even been more. I wonder if I can find the Nifty Kids like drop page.
Yeah, I'm curious about what that actually dropped for.
Nifty
I do kind of want one of these packs though for 250, 255 or whatever. Like
the I got NFTinsider.io from October 27th, 2021, which is right in the middle of the boom of. This was just like a pretty clear way to extract as much money as people who are earning money from NFT gaming that got into it from Garbage Pail Kids, which is a pretty like shady thing to do. But
oh, for sure.
I'm trying to see how much it costs. This is written by, I haven't even thought about John in so long from here's something else before. No, NFT Insider. Oh, was that what his thing was called? I'm forgetting now. He used to be a streamer and stuff though, and then now I think he does like car stuff. Like he does like simulation car racing game reviews. Priced at 329 wax a pop. But how much was wax? 329 wax. That was when wax was close to $1. This might be well over $100.
Yeah, that sounds expensive, honestly.
Let's see if I can find one that's priced in USD.
I imagine that's like between 70 and like 100.
Can you look up the price of wax on?
Yeah. What do you?
October 28th, 2021.
All right, let's see. Where's wax? Oh, here. Okay, let's go back. Hide some of these lines. 2021?
Yeah.
Let's see. Hey, get out of here. August, September, October 18th, 20.
October 20. October 28th.
28th.
2021.
Here it is. So October 28th, we're looking at like, that's 29. Yeah, 28, 40 cents.
That would be, it was $131 to buy one of these on drop day.
Shit. And it would have gone up pretty quickly from there too. Like it goes up to like over 50 cents in the next like day or two.
But I think around December or January is when Farmers World started crashing. So that was like kind of when everything. I mean, I guess you're like right before that. You can look at that chart when Farmers World crashed. It was kind of when wax crashed. So.
Yeah, that'll be right around end of December.
Timing wise, they extracted money from people.
They
perfect time before people still had money to be extracted.
Sweet spot, yeah. Honestly, though, I might have to scoop some of this nonsense now that it's like that's kind of like the nice thing about I'm still here. I'm still like a fan of collecting this stuff. I never like wasn't. And a lot of like this, just buying some of these things that like used to be pipe dreams. Like I would never have bought a pack for $130, but
I might still have some
$5.
Kids. One of those Garbage Kill Kids was like my first like rare thing I ever pulled on wax, and I was pretty happy with it. I'm gonna check if it's in my Polish dog wallet.
I also bet you the fucking MLB packs are still like getting killer.
MLB shit. I mean, I said it a long time ago. I was like, if there's one thing that's going to hold value on this chain, it's going to be this. I told everybody that.
Listing, yeah, 500. It's still $13 for the standard pack, and it looks like the lowest listing is $160 for the premium packs.
That's not that different than what I was buying and selling.
Yeah, but now it's 6,000 wax. So like, let's see. Look at this. Sales history of all time. I'm sure it's going to be around 150 here. It's 6,000 wax. It used to be 2,000 wax, but still like $200. Like, geez. Man, it was always around like $150 to $200.
trying to see if I have.
It's the ultimate wax stablecoin. I feel like this will still hold its value as long as wax is a thing. This will hold its value.
I don't know if I still have that. I might have gotten
in
rid
terms
of
of dollars.
I haven't looked at my wax ball in a long time. I just have a shit ton of
Right.
Meta Battler stuff from playing Meta Battler.
I'll look at my wallet a little bit more too.
And honestly, I haven't been following Meta Battler. I don't know what's up with Meta Battler if they're still trucking.
Estimated. Oh yeah, I haven't kept up either.
That's the last thing I bought on wax though, and also don't even regret it a little bit. I've never regretted buying shit from.
After Neon Space, the Horrors is my second biggest collection in my wallet too. No regrets either. And then Funko's TMNT, the first Funko's Series 1, I have the royalty set. Boom. Oh, my lowest listing is $24 for the Freddy. This was airdropped to me for having the royalty set.
That's pretty legit.
That's not bad, yeah. That's almost 1,000 wax. I mean, nothing from this set is for sale because I only have one of each. And it's, collection
Should we get into some overall market analysis?
Yeah, let's do that. Before I get too nostalgic in my wallet here.
Going down the rabbit hole of our dusty digital collectibles. I've been collecting digital dust.
Let's see what's going on with the crypto market, though. And look, here we go. Let's look at Bitcoin first. Bitcoin, baby. Looking at the week on Bitcoin, we've had a nice sell-off, and now we finally got our retest. Look at that. Forming what we're looking for on the weekly chart. So we've been talking about, it's been about a month since the last time we looked at the market. So last month we had already gotten kind of like the bigger port. Last time we were talking about this, it had already like kind of dumped, and we were saying, okay, we're looking for like lower highs than lower lows to follow. So what we just got is, a higher high from the short term here, but on the long term, we're pretty much retesting what would look like, right around weekly resistance here after having finally broken that, from a long bull run up. So again, if we cannot reclaim and hold above this resistance now on the weekly chart, then this is, a retest forming kind of like a lower high, retesting the previous kind of like support, which exists, at the base of the majority of this price action. Kind of where my mouse is right now. I'd say around $96,000 per Bitcoin would be the top of that, and then I would say like 93 was the bottom of that range, like 93, or not even 93. I'd say even lower than that, like 90. So between like 90 and 96, I'm expecting we're gonna find kind of like the momentum of this recent retest kind of running out of steam. You can see on the weekly chart we've no longer in the oversold side, but also obviously not yet overbought or anything. But then we get to the daily chart here. You can see we've been now, getting close to the overbought end of this spectrum. You can see we got just with the daily chart on our strength band here, we had been, closing days below it, and then it's acting as resistance, rejecting us over and over again until recently here, where the past week or so we had been kind of like forming support above that, which now materialized in the last few days as this breakout retest. But keep in mind, these two candles are that crazy price action that we got when they did the whole tariff kind of flip-flop from Sunday to Monday, like that big market pump, market dump kind of a thing. And so we're basically retesting the top of that same pump and inevitable ultimate rejection. So while the day does feel very bullish and this feels like a nice upswing, I'm still a little hesitant to call this a flip and back to bullish until we see basically what we always want to see, which is the confirmation. So if this is going to be our higher high for the first time, we need a higher low to confirm this higher high isn't just a fake out. So that's what we're going to be waiting for in the coming days and weeks here, is for the Bitcoin market to kind of is it going to find its resistance in the range, where that resistance is strongest, kind of like near the bottom of where these kind of wicks were before we finally lost this as support. That support has turned into resistance, and then that, that resistance kind of rejecting us and hopefully giving us a higher low and then the opportunity to enter the market versus trying to see this big spike in the last couple, like 24 or 48 hours and be like, oh shit, let me throw all my stuff in here, and then only for it to run out of steam here and start pulling back. So now in an effort to go long in the future, I'm kind of waiting to see first a pullback and a higher high to confirm this kind of market activity. Otherwise, it could just be short-term volatility and kind of craziness that's happening just because of macroeconomics and in general, because we're in a speculative asset market during a bigger time of like global market uncertainties. So speculative markets get a lot more volatile. Rockmall says, what sort of things would perhaps indicate how long an uptrade could continue for? I would say as long as you're getting like continuing like higher highs, higher lows, and lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, those will indicate that you're trending. Beyond that, the only other kind of activity you will find in a market is ranging, which is either we're trending, meaning we're moving up or down in one direction, trending in a direction, or we're ranging, meaning we're basically flatlining between a certain range. And so as long as we're making higher high, higher low kind of things, then we can continue to confirm our bias that we're in a trend and what direction that trend is. And then as long as once we stop seeing those, we'll have to kind of like adjust. But there's not really a great indicator of like how long something can continue, other than the kind of RSI, which is like the relative strength index, which is this index down here, which on the daily chart is starting to top out. So this is indicating basically that in the daily time frame, we're looking to pull back, and we're becoming what would be considered overbought, which generally kind of translates to we're running out of steam for this movement in this time frame. But those indicators will change based on what time frame you're in. So you can see on the weekly chart, there's clearly still space to move up here. Of course, what you'll also notice in one of these like upward moves here, when we are kind of climbing like this, is you're not necessarily going to get just like massive candle after candle after candle, but like this kind of price action too is going to drive your RSI up quite a bit as well. So looking at it basically on the different time frames is going to give me an indication, and that's kind of why I'm also closing long positions around here, like expecting resistance around here, and that resistance to materialize in like a pullback. So I would say based on the daily charts SRSI, I'm expecting this kind of move to kind of run out of steam in the short term, meaning in the next like 2 to 3 days, maybe before the weekend. And then of course weekends, I expect more shenanigans because the market's liquidity in general is thinner on the weekend. But with all of that in mind, I wanted to dive into some like ideas of like how to participate in the market to generate yield or earn interest or whatever without being exposed to all this kind of like trade volatility, because there's a lot of price movement, and the majority of people out here trading these markets are trading them by picking a direction, like saying, oh, are we going to keep moving up right now, or are we going to start moving down right now? So I'll either buy Bitcoin or I'll short sell Bitcoin to play the price direction. If I'm right, I can make money. If I'm wrong, I can lose money. And that strategy is great if you know what you're doing really well, or if you like to gamble. But a strategy that can generate money without exposure to the up or downside of the market, where it's just a fixed return, is what I've been most interested in pursuing in the last few, I'd say almost in the last year or so at this point, because it's very frustrating to do the trade finance side of this market, because even when you do it well, you can do it well for say 6 months straight and then have a few weeks of bad activity that wipe out months of what is work to accomplish. And so risking that work is very difficult to stomach, and to continue to do this kind of like indefinitely, if this is something you really like to do, manage a portfolio, then that portfolio needs to kind of have a more reliable performance. And so I wanted to dive into a couple examples of what can be done to generate like a reliable return on unexposed positions. And I feel like the most obvious of this would be AAVE. This is this is the money market protocol of DeFi. It's overtaken Compound by a pretty huge margin now, and it's basically, you can go into markets. It runs on all these different blockchains. So if you're just on Ethereum, that's the core market here. And
You
what
answered the
this
question about
let's
things
see.
that would indicate trends, right?
Yeah, that was about the SRSI is going to help you understand how much steam you have left in the current like directional trend.
The other thing I'd say about that though is that it's also like it is until it isn't.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the way
And
data works is like
the
things look a
data,
certain way until more data pops up. So like you can never really be like, this is for sure going to happen for this amount of time. It's
yeah,
going to happen
exactly.
until the data says otherwise.
And
And that,
indicators across the board using data in real time also means that we need data to happen before the trend can be plotted on a graph. So all of those indicators are lagging behind the reality of what's happening. Like no matter what, you can't plot data into something digestible like a graph without having enough data to represent in those types of points, and that makes it tricky, because like what makes the SRSI sink is that the price is sinking, so it doesn't start to sink before the price sinks. So you're kind of like having to come up with a lot of ways to analyze that kind of indicator. And again, like Liz is saying, like the data is not like, even though even if it is real time, you can't run indicators and algorithms on data in real time that are producing like a visual representation of the future.
then there's always like generally like even if you are reading charts, it's like this could happen, which could make this, or this happen.
Yeah.
But it's very rarely like this is for sure going to happen for the next 6 months. Like it's more like this is how it feels for the next 3 days, and then check back to see the data, like because you have to just constantly reinterpret.
Yeah, exactly. And as that comes, like the idea is more like it's giving you a bias of like how likely is the price to continue to go up. And that's like I was saying with the current price, where I'm like, okay, at 93,000 is kind of where I was starting to expect resistance. So that's where I started to sell away from those assets back into cash or back into something more stable, because I'm expecting it to start to run out of steam. And then if it doesn't, if it just kind of blows through that, okay, well, I'll just jump back in later. Sure, I'll have missed a little gap or something, but I'm trying to trade or position my assets in a way that exposes them to the highest probability of what might happen most likely based on my understanding of the chart, where it's like more likely than not we don't just plow through 96k. Most likely we find resistance there, pull back, maybe even if we just pull back to 90 or whatever. But that kind of stuff is like finding out, charting like the levels of resistance and support is really what's going to help more to determine how much time is left on a move, because moves can happen very quickly or very slowly, but they generally will happen between the ranging will happen flat at resistance and support levels, and then the trending of a market either up or down will trend between those levels. So by learning how to track support and resistance levels, that is the better way to, I think, approach chart reading. Okay, with all of that said, let's look at this market and give the first impression of like what is some ways to do, like easy ways to make a return on our assets. Like if we don't want, say, Bitcoin exposure, we just want cash exposure, we could hold USDC, but holding USDC on its own isn't really going to do anything other than like more than holding cash in a bank account or something. But taking USDC and supplying it to a money market such as AAVE does produce a return. And so, for example, here there's USDC supplied. There is 2.7 billion USDC supplied here, and it's earning 2.34% APY. This APY is paid directly in USDC. So if you supply, let's say, 100 USDC to this pool by just adding here and clicking supply after you've connected your wallet, once you've added the 100 USDC, you can come back like 10 minutes later and it'll be like 100.0000 whatever, and every block that goes by your USDC balance increases at a rate of 2.34% APR. I'm sorry, APY. It's APY because that increase is compounding. All the fees that you're earning in real time now start earning fees themselves. So the APR of this position is probably like 2.31 or something. And then 2.34 is because it's compounding 2.31 annually. Anyway, you can see that this way you could supply single assets such as USDC, or you could supply single assets such as, Bitcoin, staked Bitcoin derivatives, and earn a little additional interest on, for example, ETH, like earn 2% on your ETH directly, and not have to sell it and then buy it back cheaper and try to time the market or anything. You can just let it sit here and let it ride. Of course, 2.1% isn't necessarily something to write home about, but this is an option, and I think this is like the foundation of what a lot of DeFi strategies are built on, is this money market. Especially there is $4 billion worth of Ethereum here, $4 billion worth of Bitcoin, 3.4 Tether, 3 billion wrapped staked. Like, this is a huge money market. Here total says $24 billion here, and you can see it'll run on Avalanche too, and on like Arbitrum, and on Arbitrum alone there's $1 billion in this. So it's very simple to like participate in this, even from a layer 2 chain, and then the APRs are relatively attractive if you're coming from a world of like traditional finance where your bank account isn't offering you anywhere near 2.6%. This is 2.6% paid on USDC, so on cash, basically in cash, for what I would consider a very low risk position. You can also, what happens when you deposit USDC is you receive a USDC, which is like AAVE's basically index token of your deposit. And you could, if you wanted to, you could trade that directly from your wallet as well. So instead of setting, for example, limit orders to trade USDC into ETH or Bitcoin or whatever you're trying to buy, you could set that same limit order to purchase the same crypto, but with USDC that's also earning 2.6%. So that's kind of what I mean by this money market is the foundation of a lot of DeFi strategies. Anyway, moving on to something a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to look really quick here at, this is Impermax Finance. This is basically now we're taking the same idea that we were looking at before, which is a money market where you're depositing your assets and you're getting paid an interest rate based on people borrowing those assets. So I guess I actually didn't mention how this actually works. How are you getting 2% here? Well, you're supplying USDC, and even though you yourself are only adding the USDC, the market is then, letting somebody else borrow this USDC. The person who's borrowing it is paying 4.8% APY for the loan. So they're paying the USDC back with more USDC, which is where your interest is coming from. But they're using the borrowed balance to maybe take out a withdrawal of this money market in any of these other tokens. So you might have somebody coming here who, expects the price of Ethereum to increase. So what that person might do is deposit their Ethereum into this money market. So now their Ethereum, let's say they have 1 Ethereum. Now their 1 Ethereum is earning 1% interest. And then they might use that 1 Ethereum that they've deposited to borrow $1,000 USDC. Using that USDC, now they owe 4% on $1,000 of USDC. They can then take that USDC, go to Uniswap or wherever, buy another $1,000 worth of ETH, and deposit that also into this money market. And now, ETH is currently priced at $1,000, let's say $800. So in the scenario that I just described, the person who came to this deposited 1 ETH worth $1,800 now has a deposit of 1 point whatever ETH worth $2,800 because they've bought $1,000 more of ETH at the moment, and they also have a debt of 1,000 US dollars. So the debt is collateralized against 2,800. So they owe $1,000 against 2,800. That gives them a lot of margin, means they're not in a whole lot of danger, even if the price of ETH starts to fall aggressively. But if the price of ETH did fall to a certain level, the money market would basically seize their ETH and sell it into USDC, so that you, the person who's lent this $1,000 in the first place, is never at risk of losing their $1,000 of USDC. Either way, that's kind of the fundamental way of how these money markets work. The next level up from that, Impermax is creating isolated money markets that are, instead of collateralized against all the other assets within the market, are going to be collateralized against a single liquidity pool. So in this example, we can look at, like here, let's look, there's the lending vault. Let's look at the markets. So you have, for example, Uniswap is, everyone's hopefully familiar with Uniswap, is a DEX similar to, like Alcor's swap, where you have these pools. The pools are V3, so they can be variable pools. But for example, this pool is ETH and USDC. And what you can do here is, set your range and then borrow against the money in the pool. You can borrow from a lending pool of USDC and ETH. So you can see here USDC and ETH. And so here the USDC supply is earning 6.1%. And the ETH supply is earning 4.8. So if you were to participate in this sort of money market instead, it's the exact same process as if you were over on AAVE. So instead of taking your $100 of USDC and depositing it here to earn a passive 2.6%, you could take it to Impermax, choose a liquidity pool pair that you feel like is comfortable for your own risk tolerance. So if I actually set this to lending view and change the sort by APR, you can see some of these APRs are fucking massive, 270, but this is paid on whatever this coin is, and there's a total supply of $30. So, you'd want to be picking, I would say, positions that are not necessarily high risk, in the sense that there's, if there's something more like this where there's $60,000 already supplied here, and 51% is a pretty decent return on AERO. But then you have an option, for example, for this pool, Spectra is paying almost 17% for USDC on base chain. So if you have USDC, you could come to this pool and simply go to lend and supply USDC here. You would earn 17% APR, not APY, also auto compounding. So this is close to 20%. Like this is like 18% or something, 19 maybe. APY for just adding US dollar coin. But like I said, with the other pools, this is collateralized by the liquidity pool. So whatever this Spectra token is, if it suddenly gets rug pulled, then the counterpart to what people have borrowed your USDC for becomes worthless, and it's hard to get that. Like it becomes bad debt, and you won't be able to get your money back. That's also why they're offering a higher interest on this. Either way, 17% is pretty substantial for cash. This is relatively higher risk if you're doing a crazy asset like that, but you can also choose to use their vaults, where they will basically diversify your deposit across different pools. So if you did like the USDC on Arbitrum, 6.5%, and you can see up here the list of pairs. So it's literally just doing the one pool, and the pool is ETH and USDC. That's a pretty unlikely pool to suddenly lose its value entirely, and therefore I would feel pretty comfortable recommending this as a way to make 6.5% on USDC. That's a pretty straightforward way to still do this. All you're doing is coming here and depositing USDC or any of these other assets into whatever vault you want, or more manually choosing a single liquidity pool like USDC and ETH, and then going to the lending tab and simply depositing it there directly. So like managing it on your own, basically. The vaults have the upside of, if new liquidity pairs come available that fall within the vault's risk kind of like profile, you can see they have a profile. This is conservative, this is balanced. I think there's aggressive is like the other option. So you can read their documentation and see what these different risk profiles allow for. And the benefit, of course, is if you've staked it to the vault, you can just kind of like let that ride passively and let them add more pools and more sources of revenue based on what's most profitable. Is the new site? No, this is older than, I think this is a remodel of their original site, but Impermax is kind of like the original player in the space of liquidity pool, like incentivized liquidity pool farming. Like this is the precursor to something like extra finance, which does the same thing. But this is, or like Taro. Taro is another protocol that's similar to this. But all of these came out probably like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. But so I'm familiar with this protocol for a long time already. I'm just a big fan of. They've recently upgraded to like their V2, which now they're able to support, like V3 liquidity pools and stuff. It's not just for money market against a 0 to infinity liquidity pool, which that is still the case at Extra Finance, which does a similar thing. And then before I start falling on deaf ears here, I do want to show one last little way to do this that is kind of the most high concept, but also, if you know what you're doing, the most lucrative. And that is going on a site like GMX and acting as counter collateral to trades on GMX. So let me show you what I mean by this. If I go to trade on this site, this is a perpetual future market that settles physically, meaning you can trade all these different assets. Like, let's say stick to these first few, like Bitcoin and ETH and Solana and Link and XRP and stuff. And so not all of these are physically settling. Some of these are synthetic markets. And what I mean by that is, for example, Bitcoin is a physical market. Bitcoin here, you can see the pool that acts as collateral to a trade here would be Bitcoin and Ethereum. That means you can set your collateral for a position in this as either Bitcoin or USDC, because that's the pool. That's the counterpart. And so there's basically a liquidity pool of USDC and Bitcoin that is going to be borrowed from or paid interest to in order to open positions here, including leverage. So I could take a wallet here and I could show up with, any of these assets. So let's say I have my GMX token, whatever. Actually, just for ease of understanding, let's just use USDC. I could come here with 100 USDC, and then I could open a position either long or short on Bitcoin and trade with leverage. So like, let's say if I want like Bitcoin is flying to the moon right now, and I only have $100, but I'm like crazy and I just want to like make tons of money. I'm going to go 25x on my $100, and I can open a position that's worth $2,500 in Bitcoin with just $100 in my wallet. The way this is going to work is I'm going to be opening this position, and then you can see at this price here, 90,400, which is around here. At that price, I become liquidated, which means the 100 USDC that I've put up to open this position becomes forfeit, and I've lost it all. But that is also the maximum I can lose from a position like this. The upside of this position is unlimited, meaning if the market starts to climb now, then yeah, I have the exposure to $2,000 worth of Bitcoin. And so if the market, let's say, climbs 1%, then I'm going to end up making $25 or 25%, because it's 25 times my initial principal here. This is also a long-standing, well-established, decentralized market. If we go to dashboard really quick, you can see there is, in the last 24 hours, almost $400 million worth of trading volume. And you can see that there is almost $250 million in liquidity participating in these markets at the moment. So how do we make some return from this with our USDC or our stable coins without exposure to the market? Well, that comes into play with the funding rates. So the way that these position works is when you open a position like this, this $2,000 value, you only put $100 up. Well, this value counterpart comes from somewhere. You're borrowing it, and you have to pay interest to borrow. And so that interest is denominated as funding fee, and you can see it right up here. And for this position, for example, I actually have a positive 1.4% funding fee, APR. This is if you look at the 365 days. So that means if I open this position, I'll actually be earning money from the people who are holding short positions in order to hold a long position. Generally speaking, the market will reverse that. So like let's go to US let's go this one. This one you're paying on both sides a small interest because there's just not enough gap between the open interest. But if we look at, let's see, like the other side of this market, this is ETH collateralized with ETH. So this is the exact same. You can trade this ETH price, but all of the collateral here is Ethereum. What you can do now is you can take, you can see here, this market is paying 52% APR for Ethereum short sells. So far, the highest we've seen on high risk US dollar coin exposure has been about 17%. 52% is massive. And because it's on the short side of this market, you can actually get cash exposure, like cash secured exposure to this position with pretty much relative ease. So I could take my $100 and I could say short sell ETH collateral with ETH as collateral 1x. And what this position would do is create a short sell of this amount of ETH, which is worth currently $100. And it would take the collateral, the $100 I'm putting up, and set it as Ethereum as well. And so the final result of this position means that I'm 1x negative ETH exposure with the actual short, and my collateral has 1x positive ETH exposure. So the position itself becomes delta neutral. And I'll show you an example of an open position. So I do this. Here's a wallet I've been doing it from. So these two positions are both at, one started as 15,000 USDC and one as 10,000. The profit and loss for these net values says that I've lost $3,000 from the ARB position and almost 1,000 from my ETH short. So the net like P&L looks like I'm losing money pretty aggressively. But what's actually happening is the collateral value is increasing in the opposite direction of the loss value. So you can see this is Ethereum US dollars with a short position. It was 1x, it's 1.9, whatever. It'll change based on you're paying a little bit of funding fees and you're earning money basically from doing this. And you can see, so I started with, like I said, with 10,000. At the time, my collateral was also worth 10,000. Now, you know, I've lost almost $1,000 in net value, but I've gained $1,000 in collateral value. So the net, you can actually see this in real time. As these numbers change, the profit and loss, my net value doesn't change. So it doesn't actually matter at all what the price of either of these tokens does. It doesn't matter if I'm positive or negative here. I don't care. These positions are cash secured in a sense where no matter what happens with the price of the market, you know, for one, this is staying $15,000. And if you look at the liquidation price, there is no liquidation price. I can't be liquidated because the collateral is in kind. So Rock Metal says, huh? So what I've done here, Rock Metal, is for the ETH position, right? The entry price that I opened this at was 16.45. The current price of ETH is almost 18. So I opened a short position when it was like what seemed like obviously like near the bottom of the market. This is not a good idea to go short here, you know, because you would lose money. But I took my $10,000 and went short and set the collateral like here as ETH. So because the collateral itself was ETH at the time, 16.45, $10,000, that bought me 6.17 ETH. And that 6.17 ETH became the collateral for this position. So now that collateral still is there, and that collateral is now worth $11,000. But the short sell has lost $900 in value, implied value. So if I were to, you know, close this now, it'll be down $900, but it's still worth $10,000 in cash equivalency. So what I've basically done is changed the risk asset from Ethereum to, or from Ethereum, from cash to Ethereum, meaning that this position, like, I guess think about it like this. If you buy $10,000 worth of Ethereum, right? The amount of the Ethereum that you now have doesn't change, but the value of that Ethereum changes as the price of Ethereum changes, right? So if you bought $10,000 worth and then it went up to being worth, 11,081, great. You still have the same amount of Ethereum, but now it's worth more money. With a position like this, you're basically swapping that equation where now you start with an amount of Ethereum, but the position itself will change how much Ethereum you have to keep your dollar amount the same. So no matter what happens with the price, the value of this position is going to stay $10,152. And to stay at $10,152, the amount of Ethereum that this position is going to change. So you can see I started with 6.17. If I close this now and receive Ethereum back, it's only going to be 5.65 ETH. So I'm actually, way less ETH. But look, 10,152. Like, I'm still getting back my collateral value. So why bother? Well, because 52% APR is being paid to the collateral, which is $19.70 per day. So I claimed this earlier today. I already made $3.13 again. And this is paid in ETH. Now, the same thing is true of ARB. If I go to the ARB market here, 49% APR. This is $20 a day. And so I'm getting paid $20 a day and $20 minus the 5 on this one. So 15. So between these two, that's like $35 a day on 25K. That amounts to like 35-40% almost APR. That's fantastic. So looking at, I've started this about 2 weeks ago on Friday, and you can see the claims. Like I said, I claimed this earlier today at 1:30. It's now 5:13. So since 1:30 to 5, so like a little less than 4 hours, it's made $6.40. And you can see over the past week here, I've claimed several $100s worth of this. And that's the whole strategy. It's literally just keeping positions open on the short side, covered with in-kind collateral, so long as the funding rates are positive in your favor. And so strategies like this can generate, 30 to 40% on what is relatively is cash exposure. So like you could expect to make like $10,000 a year from a $25,000 like position like this. And then what I'm doing, like obviously I started with 25,000 in USDC. You can actually, here's the I'll even share this link. You can, if you want, you can track this on your own. I made a clean wallet so that it would be very clean to see, but you can see the whole transaction history of this. All I've ever done was supply it with $25,000 USDC, and I think $80 worth of ETH, 40 on ARB and 40 on ETH mainnet. And then I, bridged the USDC to Arbitrum and started doing these GMX funding farms. And then I'll do once a week or twice a week. I'll claim the fees or settle whatever I have there. And then I'll just compound that in those funding. So that's why instead of only 25K, now there's 25,220. So in the last, since Friday, so I guess it's like a week and a half ago, since in a week and a half, it's made about $220. And that again is without having to expose myself to the market itself. If I had gone long ARB, I'd be up $3,000. If I had gone long ETH, I'd be up $911, But if I had gone short, I'd be down this amount. But this way, I'm not, I'm not trying to guess what direction the market's moving. I'm just trying to participate in the market making side of this, So that, this would be nice. $3,000 on a $15,000 play. That would be awesome. But I can't do that consistently. I can do this consistently, and 49%. If you can do this for 365 days, 49% is unbelievable. Even if you're consistently betting correctly and trading actively all the time, if at the end of the year you're up 40%, that I would be very happy with that. So to be able to reach a similar level of return, but without volatility exposure, this is a very, I mean, this is a relatively higher concept strategy, but it's still very straightforward. I mean, you can see this whole thing is done with 2 positions. You can do it also. So by the way, if we go to dashboard, you can look through, here's the different markets. And obviously they're not always going to be positive on the short side. So like, for example, Bitcoin currently is not. So if we look at the Bitcoin market, you can see Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin collateralized in Bitcoin, it's positive on the long side, but negative on the short side. And so what I could do here is open a long, again, with 1x leverage. So I would earn 20%, but I'd also now be exposed long. And so I would also then have to change the collateral asset market here and then open a short on this one, collateralized in USDC. The short and long would cancel each other's delta out. So basically my cash would become secured again. I'd be not at risk of losing value in cash, but I would now be paying 10% of interest on the short and earning 20% on the long. So I would still be net positive here. So that, I mean, for 10% difference, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you look at something like maybe Solana will have something nuts here. Yeah, there we go, like a 62% on the short side. So this is easier to do. But there'll be times when there's, the long side is paying hundreds of percentages and you can still farm those percentages. That would just require opening the counterpart. So like, opening a short at the same time as you're opening a long. But it's a very interesting strategy. And I really have been blown away with the results. It's over 30%. So I mean, annualizing the last 2 weeks, but it also does very well in a bull market. The more people that open long positions and hold, leveraged longs, the more this strategy prints interest. And again, you're never really exposed to the loss based on market moves. You're only exposed to a loss based on the funding fee shifting. So if you do end up in a position like this and the funding fee shifts aggressively negative, like again, Solana is a bad example because it's so wild. But looking like at Bitcoin, for example, here it's switched to 10% negative. I might not immediately close this position if it had been positive for the last several days, because I can hold out, 24 hours is only going to cost me 0.03%, which is less than or close to what the open and closing fees are for a position this size. And so I don't want to just immediately abandon ship, and I'm able to hold on to a position like this even when the funding fees turn negative. And you can actually see the result of that in the funding fees here, where you can see I've actually already paid 80 cents in negative funding fees, but in that same amount of time made $3.22. So as long as I'm outpacing, like right now, I'm being charged $5 a day, but I'm making 20. So the $15 is still closing in on 35% or something. Hopefully that's not too crazy over the top, but I really like this kind of strategy. It's very interesting. It's very easy to sleep when they're having something like this open. Worst case scenario, there's literally no liquidation price for the ARB position, and it looks like over $1 million per ETH before I'm even worried about being liquidated there. So that's just not going to happen. And I'm not worried that the market's going to do something crazy that I'm not anticipating while I'm asleep, while I'm away, while I have a position open, and I'm not going to be there in time to close it. So being able to then, do this kind of thing also does not rely on rewards distribution programs. And so there is not a expiration date for when, the grant money runs out or when the reward distribution program ends. And then, you kind of have to find something new. This type of a strategy is based directly on the market activity. That market activity is pretty consistent and honestly just goes up during a bull market. And in a bear market, well, you're trading the short side of this stuff. So worst case scenario, I'm paying, a funding fee to buy the dip. And I can live with that too. Because like I said, it's securing the cash value against ETH. So if ETH starts to drop aggressively, I'm going to end up with a lot more ETH still worth the same amount of money. So, it's a nice way to once so for example, what you could do if you're not trying to like start your own funding fee farm or anything, what you could do is once, let's say you own some ETH, and once ETH gets to a point where you're like, I don't know if I should hold this or sell it, or like, oh, it's gone up so much, whatever, I don't like, what should I do? Instead of selling it and like sitting on cash then and maybe buying back later, what you could do is just short sell it 1x and use it as collateral like I have here. And then if the price of ETH ends up dumping, well, your value in dollars doesn't go away, but you're still earning a little bit of interest while you're waiting. And if it does end up falling aggressively down, you can close those positions with way more ETH than you ever had when you first started. So it's kind of like automating buying the dip and kind of getting paid to do it. It is very high concept, so if you have questions, ask in Discord. But yeah, let's do like a giveaway. I feel like it's going to be too in one ear and out the other. I think so. Yeah.
Giveaway, give it away, give it away, give it away now. Let me.
But yeah, that's a way you can trade crypto. Like, I mean, I'm trading crypto there. I'm just not trying to guess what direction the market's moving. And I'm like, the influence of my opening position isn't like, I think this is going to happen in the future. I'm trying to predict whatever is going to, it's more like, this is what I'm being offered to supply liquidity to this, 50 fucking percent APR. Hell yeah. Like, I'm there. I'm willing to pay open and close fees to hold a position like that. It's fun. It's fun when you know what you're doing. But yeah, I can see it being like, because I know it weirds people out too to see like a P&L, like I'm down 17% on that, but it's like, it's relative to the value of the collateral. And I calculate this stuff relative to the value of dollars, and therefore it never feels risky or anything.
Exclamation point neon if you'd like to join this giveaway. So
that's rock metal. I agree. If they opened like a GMX style like market on Wax or some kind of money market or something like that, it would be great. I'd love to
hoping
show how that
works. Had something like that.
Yeah, they did
forever ago, and we were hoping, but then it became pretty clear that DeFi Box had no intentions on developing anything on Wax.
Yeah, it would be really cool though, because it's like not it's not hard to do this stuff, and then to do it on something like Wax where there is no like transaction fees either. You could totally learn by doing with very small amounts of money, and it would give a lot of like utility to other tokens out here. Like if you add some tokens to the market, there's a reason why there should be volume on the token. It's because because there's people leverage trading it. Of course, it also opens up the ability of like what happens on Hyperliquid recently, where people will, like, the creator of a token could like open a bunch of short sales on their own token and then just like rug pull their own project and make a shit ton of money like shorting it before it got rugged.
I remember when we were on DeFi Box, we're like, we want to short the fucking Farmers World token because it was like the most ridiculous price and would have done very well had we
would have done so well.
All right, I'm gonna launch this.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And I know, yeah, I got my guy in there too. I know a few people had been like toying with the idea of making something like that, but it is also true that like you do need relative like deep liquidity to do something like this effective.
Also, a reason for people to want to lend shit, because somebody built the NFT lending protocol in Wax and just nobody used it because nobody.
Yeah.
So it's like you'd also need people to be participating, not just for it to exist.
Yeah, exactly. And then I feel
Rock Metal is our winner. Congrats.
There's always people who like understand how things work in a way. Like I use GMX in a way that most people don't use it. Most people are using that platform I was just showing everybody where I was doing those funding fee farms. Most people use that platform like the example I gave when we started looking at it, where people will show up with like 100 USDC and then, make a bet long or short with like 5, 10, 20x up to 100x leverage. But like there's like I said, there's different ways. Like it's DeFi. Like the entire market is open to you, and you can participate in ways that aren't necessarily possible in traditional finance.
Have you done the wax moves yet this week?
Oh, I haven't. No.
We should maybe do that next.
Yeah, let's see. Let me pull that up.
I've been chatting about fantasy baseball while you're talking, so I haven't been paying attention 100%. Fantasy baseball is in full swing over my computer. My opponent this week is trying to start an illegal number of pitchers, so I'm having that get sorted out. You can only start 7 pitchers a week, but there's the ability to put slot 8 in, just like the website allows you to put an 8, but you're not allowed to put an 8 as a rule that our group came up with. And my opponent put an 8, so I'm like, that's too many.
That's funny.
So I was tattling. I was telling on him. I was narking.
Nice.
Hey, that last one is like
that's
pitching categories like strikes. And the more pitchers you have pitching, the more strikes you get. So if he has one more than me, it's like a huge advantage.
All right.
Back to Wax DeFi.
Yeah, let's look at this one here. This was the latest thing, streamlining governance and funding. I haven't actually read through this, but I'm curious what they're doing here. It says the Wax blockchain is entering a new phase of evolution focused on improving governance, enhancing funding efficiency, and ensuring long-term sustainability, reducing inflation from 5 to 4%. Nice. With a streamlined model for validator compensation and ecosystem growth, these updates aim to better align the protocol with emerging trends and reinforce Wax's role as a robust developer-friendly platform. Okay, let's see how we got here. It says since its introduction in 2019, the official Inspector General, Office of Inspector General, has helped Wax build a reliable governance framework. We're familiar with that. We've messed around with like OIG, like elections and stuff in the past. Ensuring that infrastructure remains secure, validators deliver value, and guilds, also known as block producers, are rewarded fairly for their contributions. Guilds have served as the backbone of the network, producing blocks and developing essential tools like marketplaces, decentralized exchanges, and digital collectibles. In times of rapid growth, especially during the last bull run, expectations expanded. Guilds were encouraged not only to run infrastructure, but also to build products, contribute code, and help grow the ecosystem. We also knew about this. Like, I think that's part of like the OIG points that they earn as guilds. It's an interesting system. To support these added responsibilities, the guild rewards parachute was introduced during the bear market, giving active contributors more flexibility in covering operating costs. But now, with the industry maturing and new funding models becoming more efficient, Wax is shifting gears. Okay. What's changing and why? To simplify operations and sharpen focus, Wax will do the following. Transition ecosystem products development funding to Wax Labs. That's cool. I feel like that should have been the state from the beginning. Reinforced guild compensation on technical infrastructure only. Okay, so I guess they're only going to be rewarding guilds or so block producers based on their, I would say, like their hardware uptime and ability to publish blocks and participate in the block producing rather than what they're building, on the side, which I guess is also cool because I do think sometimes block producers were creating stuff that like wasn't needed and getting credit for stuff that's like, I mean, yes, they built it, but like who's asking and why waste time and network money to pay for that. And then last one here, phase out the guild rewards parachute over 6 months beginning in April 2025. So that's this month. And I think the rewards parachute is, if I'm correct, is like a thing about expanding how much wax block producers are getting based on the price of wax in US dollars versus in wax to keep a baseline of US dollar payment. I think, I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out in a second, I'm sure. Let's see. This update makes way for the more transparent, scalable, and decentralized funding model. Wax Labs will now become the central hub for grants, supporting infrastructure, tools, maintenance, and new products. That's cool. Wax Labs is like a place where people can pitch.
Is this one that was like there's some big change that happened to Alien Worlds that people are bitching about? I wonder if that's a part of this.
Oh, maybe.
Like you can't play Alien Worlds without using the boosts now in the wallet. So essentially, you can't. You have to pay gas fees to play Alien Worlds, is what I heard.
Okay.
Like you have to use the power up in the WebCloud wallet. You can't sign in with an Anchor wallet, like because you have to use that wallet,
Jeez.
and they don't allow you to just do free transactions. You have to do. I was like,
that's probably good at like getting rid of bots, but that probably kills it for a lot of people too.
Or making bots pay gas fees and reducing, like inflation. But yeah, I heard that in passing in a Telegram channel. I have not verified any of that information. I don't even know if that's true, but that's what somebody said in passing somewhere, and I'm taking it as fact and announcing it on our stream.
In passing. Well, it also says, meanwhile, block producers' responsibilities will be limited to validation and maintaining a minimal set of critical infrastructure. Active block producers will remain to be funded by 1% inflation. The number of standard block producers will be reduced to 6. Mm-hmm.
I feel like this article is basically like shit's getting really bad, so
wasn't it
cutting
20
shit.
or 18 or something? 6 is not many.
Yeah, we're like, well, even just the trying to like get the inflation down so much, they're just like, we're aware that like shit's not going well, so we need to. This is scaling back so it doesn't collapse.
Yeah, that's totally what this reads as. It says, along with a slight reduction to Wax Labs, these changes will bring an overall network inflation down from 5 to 4%. Okay. That's good, I guess. Update inflation breakdown. 1% block producer reward. Okay. 15% standby block producer rewards. Okay, so you're getting a reward now for being a standby. I don't think that used to be the case.
You always got rewarded for being a standby.
Oh, okay. Then I was wrong about that.
You just get significantly less.
0.85 for Wax Labs and 2% staking and voting rewards. Okay, so the bulk of it, like half of it, goes to staking, and then the other half is split basically half block producers.
What was it before? Do they have like the previous inflation breakdown?
I don't think so.
Curious if that affects like the APR for staking Wax, or if it's always 2%.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. By separating core infrastructure responsibilities from broader ecosystem contributions, these changes allow for better specialization, open the door for new teams to contribute, and keep funding aligned with the evolving needs of Wax. Honestly, I don't hate the idea of like funding like software and other like contributions through Wax Labs instead of like just giving it to block producers. So I agree that's a good move. Evolving Wax Labs. Wax Labs will undergo a management refresh to improve transparency and responsiveness. To better support the ecosystem, Wax Labs grant will now also cover for-profit projects and infrastructure service contracts. Grants will fund key components like Hyperion history nodes and atomic assets APIs, though the transparent bidding system, allowing more guilds and contributors critical services while ensuring the network runs efficiently. Okay, so the bigger takeaway there is you can make a pitch for a for-profit project and maybe Wax Labs will fund it. Looking ahead, by October 2025, the OIG and Wax teams will introduce a new on-chain evolution framework for guilds focused on transparent technical performance metrics. This system will include a voting weight multiplier to further reward high-performing contributors with additional consideration, for example, ecosystem involvement and incident response. Sorry. The changes are designed to further proof Wax while reinforce its position as one of the most efficient, decentralized, and developer-focused blockchains in the world. Okay. In the world, I guess one of them. One of many. What is the schedule for the Guild Rewards parachute phase out? Phase out starts April 25th with 4% reduction, followed by 16 reduction at the end of each month through September. By October 2025, it'll be fully phased out. That's pretty quick.
Found in the Alien Worlds Discord, it said, updates were recently made to the Wax Cloud wallet that affects Alien Worlds gameplay. Explorers who use the Wax Cloud wallet WCW will now pay a small fee called Power Up for each transaction. This includes activities like mining and changing lands. Other wallets may not be affected by this change. So it sounds like it was not like Alien Worlds didn't add this. The Wax team must have, because the Wax team controls how the Wax wallet works. So I don't know if there's beef between Alien Worlds and Wax, but they're making.
I don't know.
I bet what they're like is they're like, you need to pay for your user shit,
Yeah.
and because you have so many fake users that you can't afford the resources for, Aliens is like, yeah, okay, now you guys have to pay for it. But I also don't know the legitimacy of that. That's speculation.
Interesting.
I mean, I feel like all of this in this article,
yeah,
it's one of those ones where it's like, in theory, this is cool, but I don't understand how any of this works in practice. Like, yeah, we'll announce how the new thing works, and it's like, okay, like
I like the idea of Wax Labs having like actual funds and being more about like all projects.
It's supposed to, but it's also always been
centralized. Yeah, it's still always like whoever has the voting power is going to still be the like.
They also pay people in Wax, and Wax is worth fucking nothing right now. So there used to be way more funds in Wax Labs when Wax was worth something.
Let's see. Oh, there's some interesting proposals up right
Wax
now.
pay, that would actually be sick.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Pay for Shopify with Wax.
I like that. That's cool.
If the tax incentive is not on us, is like trying to accept Wax payments for shit, that would be amazing. Like if we just got cash and people could pay shit for Wax on Shopify. Although we don't have Shopify anymore, but
let's see, this AI powered Web3 marketing agents. I don't know if I like that. I don't want to get a bunch of AI ads for NFTs and meme tokens. Pass.
That sounds like all the fucking buzzwords thrown in one.
AI agent.
Hey, would you like to buy a series of buzzwords?
$40,000, dude. Please, $5,000 for this. It would
I think like LedgerWise is actually legit, though. I forget who LedgerWise is, but the user.
I don't see a need necessarily for marketing.
I don't agree with that either.
There's no like audience to market to. Like
Scurvy Bot. I'm pretty sure that's the streamer dude where you get like NFTs for chatting on Twitch. The Scurvy Bot, the guy who has like the pirate.
Okay. Shit. I mean,
I don't know why somebody would need $30,000.
$30,000 seems like an ass load. I feel like if I was to ask something for like, hey, to like give to the streamer community, I'd be like, how about like $1,000?
It's also already built, so
right.
Like to market it, why do you need to market that? Like that sounds like someone's just trying to get $30,000 for something they already did.
That's more money than I would. Well, I don't know. Like I didn't build it, but that's more money than I would ask for anything.
Shit like that too, like Wax NFT model viewer. It's like, we don't need Atomic Hub. You can view every NFT on Wax. Why are you trying to build shit that we already have?
Yeah. And then let's see, equipment for
that's art. A lot of what people have done in the past. They're like, yeah, we're going to build this thing that there's already 5 versions of that nobody needs a 6th version of. Please pay us and give us guild points for it.
They want $2,000 to buy high definition screens and equipment to use at a physical art gallery aimed at Wax artists.
That one I actually don't hate, and also
I don't hate that either.
Price-wise, compared to a lot of these other ones, like that's not that unreasonable.
Yeah,
I would need more information.
If you're actually doing what you're saying, I'm into that. I'd fund that.
I don't know who that is though. Oha.wham. You have to trust the person a lot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, just the logistics of like, do you own a gallery? Like, how are you affording to keep a gallery space open to show NFT artists that is not going to make you any money, you know?
Yeah.
I need to know the legitimacy of how that works long term.
Yeah, I like ideas that like build value for the Wax. Like I'd say this one's my favorite. Shopify payments in Wax. Like that's worth it. That gives lots of people something.
Do you want to do your Wax moves?
Oh yes. I almost forgot about that. Let's see where it's been a month. Let's see where we are at with our stuff. Click launch. DeFi1. Oh, I have to punch in the password. It's been so long. It's forgotten my wallet. All right, let's see where we are. Pools. Oh, Rook. I wonder if Rook is still printing. Let's look at farms. 13 days. It's coming up on the end. But 57. That's not bad. All of our pools are still cooking. I'm going to start by claiming rewards. Lurk.
Oh, you probably didn't hear, but somebody followed us, I think.
Oh, I missed it.
McGurk's tweak to own method. Thank you for the follow.
Yo. All right, let's see. It looks like we already claimed
it's because we're not sharing.
Here we go. So I've claimed our token rewards from our farm. Here, claim all. We got some woof. I don't know. Oh, kilos from a while ago. And Ellis Wax. We got Ellis Wax. So 13 days. I feel like we'll have time to change this next week. And these other ones are still cooking for a while. I'm going to leave them cooking, although I do want to see if there's any ones that I feel like we have to jump into. Wax USDC at 25% isn't terrible. Although we're making like 57% in our Rook pool. So I'll just stay the course there, I think. Yeah, nothing too crazy. I think the move is to just compound into what we've already been doing. So sticking with, or I guess what we could do is let's do like a USDC wax, and that way we can see like what we're growing from all this staking as a new position. So I'm going to start to do that by going to wax on edge. Wax on edge. Log in with my wallet here. I'm going to start by swapping everything over to USDC and Wax. Here's my wallet. All right, I'll do 50% of that into Wax. And then the other 50% will turn into USDC. Or Wax USDC more accurately. There we go. I'm using Wax on Edge for this type of route. Look at this, LS Wax to KEK to Wax USDC. I would not have gotten that on Alcor because it was going taco swap to Alcor. Interesting. Okay, and what else? I think I'll hold off on the last of this. Or I'll just swap our other FTW. Let's see, I'll swap that into USDC as well. Boom. Okay, now back on Alcor. I'm now going to say new position. I want to make sure I want to use the farm that actually is paying, which is 0.3%, it says right here. So I can just click here and say add liquidity there. That's this one, 0.3, infinite range, 46, yep, add liquidity. And simply adding it also stakes it to that farm. So now for next week, or just moving forward, I think, until we find out what to do, I think, with our next pool here, which is kind of being our biggest pool for a while, then I want to see how it's doing, you know, like how all our other positions are doing. So if I go to pools, where is it? There it is. But yeah, this pool is 284 wax. Is that right? 284, yeah. So we're not doing too poorly here, having started with just 100 wax. This pool is, you know, more than 500 wax already on its own. And we got another 50 here, another 50 there. Wax Wurst. Oh, wait, let's double check. Is this one still paying us anything? Okay, 49% in this kilo token. I'm not familiar with this. Okay, I think we maybe also swap this one into Wax USDC because 49%, I'd rather make half of that on a more stable pool. I feel like we jumped into this Wurst pool when it was like a much higher APR. So I'm going to come here and say remove all liquidity, sign that, and then I'm going to get rid of those kilo tokens that we got because those should have also been from the claim. So, oh, there they are. Kilos. Oh, yeah, those are just been kind of dumping, huh? Well, we'll dump them too. Here we go. Signed that. And now I'm just going to go back to the ones we already have. I have a Wax USDC here. I'm just going to increase this one by what we got. All right. It looks like I have a little more than I thought it would on the Wax side of that. Let's see. So I might actually be able to just take the last of this and swap it 50-50. So we'll do this. Pulling up Wax, 50%. That's 17. Yep. All right. This is going to give me a nice... Oh, I was going to say I must be running close to my end because we do not have a lot of Wax stake to this wallet. All right, we'll leave it at that, though, for now. We moved basically out of the positions that we wanted to, the one position we wanted to close, and then moved claimed all our rewards and then put those into a Wax USDC pool, which now is sitting on, almost 40 Wax in bilateral depth. And then for next week, we'll keep this 14 Wax and top off that pool next week again. But
are we ready to do another giveaway?
Let's do another giveaway.
You mind call it a stream?
Yeah, I think so. That was. Let me stop sharing that. Yeah, I want to.
That Counter-Strike is not happening tonight.
Oh, how come?
Just the playoffs are set. So like last night they did the final rounds of the group stage, and then usually there's a couple day break between the group stage and the playoffs. The playoffs start this weekend.
Ah, I see.
Exclamation point neon if you'd like to join. So far it is just Kiyoshi Nobu. 100% chance of winning if nobody else joins. We will give people a second, but otherwise you're getting a free million wolf. Pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good odds, 100%.
I'm in. But you still have there's two. Okay. Now it's not 100, it's 50.
Max also can't win a prize, so it's still a 50% chance between Random King and Kiyoshi.
I'm in. I just win the glory, though, so just saying.
All right, we're starting it. People had time.
It's nice to see the Wax revamping their stuff a bit, even if it is.
Yeah. I also think it's smart to understand something might not be sustainable. It'd make work towards making it more sustainable. Because it was at a point where it's like, if Wax gets to be cheap enough, then you have to pay the blockchain producers more, and then it just gets to the point where it's like, is this just going to be, is this just not going to work? So even the alien world's trying to make bot farms pay fees, at least they're doing something to try to make it more deflationary.
Yeah. Right, and also just to move the the blame onto the creator of the game. Now they have to fund their own bot farms, which
I mean, I think the biggest mistake Wax has made is trying to cater to bot farms instead of make products for real people. It was very short. Yes, short term, it did
glory
help a lot of people. Short term, a lot of people made a lot of money off Alien Worlds, Our Planet, Farmer's World. Long term, it destroyed the chain. All right, I'm gonna give Random King $1 million, and then I'll give Kiyoshi. I'll give you 500,000 just for participating.
Yeah, yeah. You can
We appreciate you hanging.
you can LP farm that stuff too. I mean, I would like to one of these days maybe move our LP farm or just reward it out to people, do like a big giveaway or like an airdrop or something to like. I guess we
What
can
do you
also
mean?
add it as like rewards to the farm or something like that.
What do you mean?
The wallet that started with 100 wax, there's probably
Oh,
like
that.
600 or 700 wax now. We could like cut it back down to
Copy
100
that.
wax and give the
I
rest of it
understand
away.
what you're saying now.
Yeah. That might be a fun one to do with like the when we start doing our PFP drops too. Have some like giveaways that go to like PFP communities. That way it'll be like the active people of the
Yeah.
like of the moment still, not just
I mean,
sending
that
to.
was kind of a plan already. It was to do.
Yeah.
Because we have a shit ton of stuff in our giveaway wallet to.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. I'd love to win that Momo.
There's a lot of less cool stuff now that half the projects that gave us shit have disappeared. I was excited. We kept some really cool fucking Nova Pangea packs that were dope, but now that Nova Pangea is not a thing anymore, then
Yeah, that's too bad. Is it all the way not a thing, or it just got changed ownership or
it
something?
got bought by someone. But like, I mean, I can't imagine that the packs are worth what they were before the original creators of the project abandoned and sold the project to a non-game developer. Like, there's no way that did well for the value of the aftermarket, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, just, I mean, how many successful times have you seen somebody pass a NFT gaming project to a second party that is going to develop something that already depleted all of its, like, they did all the sales they could. If they could do more sales, they wouldn't have had to sell the project. They would have just kept selling to their customers. But they, same thing happened for Wax Arena, Green Rabbit. Like, you have a certain customer base, and then once they stop buying shit, and then you can't onboard new people, it collapses. And it's like, handing that to the next person generally does not work very well. It's like you're giving somebody captain of a sinking ship. You're like, here you go. Like, this boat is halfway underwater. Hop on. Here's your hat. Good fucking luck. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the game Novo Pangea turned into the best game ever after they gave it to a guy who made meme coins that have no like use case on Wax. But
yeah, maybe
I would actively bet against it if there was a way to.
Yeah, which I feel like that's a pretty good use case for some like money market stuff on Wax.
Let me see if I can find their Discord. I might have left it, but I am actually kind of curious what they're doing.
Oh, I do want to hear your MetaMask story too before we go, Random King.
I might have left their Discord. I don't even see it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's. Wait, no, I'm in there. Let's see what their last announcement was. Novo News. The Novo Plan AMA was 2 months ago, and that's the last announcement. But I guess technically the game is still going, but
yeah, it looks like you can still claim and do everything.
How's Dimitri at Novo support?
That's too bad. I did really like leveling up my stuff, although I have fallen off here and there. I still have like a bunch of high level shit. I spent a long time getting to those levels too. It was not easy.
IMX said, I've been playing games on IMX. I won like 44 tokens just for playing their games. I was looking for a new game and joined the Discord. The next day, they put out an announcement of a free airdrop. It took me like 5 minutes to get my MetaMask to even see the transaction. It had said the contact was a scam, and it was $7 to transfer to it. So I canceled the transaction and tagged them on X, but they didn't respond. You're lucky that you're able to cancel the transaction before it went through. If that was on Wax, it would have been so fast you wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, damn. That's great. Canceled it.
That sucks.
Still recommend IMX. Yeah, IMX I think is like they actually have a war chest to pay people to develop on their chain. Like,
I mean, most of the bigger chains do. I mean, Wax technically does too. That's what
That's true. Oh, it'll be nice to see it deployed.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, though, where it's like it would have been
more
nice
than
if they
just-
were using that shit when wax was worth $1 to pay people
All right.
to build shit, instead of now that it's worth nothing. Like you basically have no money.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
IMX spent like almost $900 million their like first year just on like grants.
Polygon also went really hard on. They just announced a partnership with Ubisoft today. Ubisoft's getting into bed with too many people.
That's the other thing. Is like they're like a block producer on Oasis. They're like a.
I mean, they made their own NFT marketplace and it failed super hard. I don't know if people just want to forget about that.
Yeah.
It's called like Shards or something. Shards. Let's see. Ubisoft NFT. Quartz. Here it is. But I believe they discontinued this. Here we go. Ubisoft's first NFT experiment was a dumpster fire. That's one of the first articles that comes up when you. To be fair, a lot of these are written by anti-NFT people that are just like, I told you so.
Yeah.
But they made Quartz digits and Ghost Recon breakpoints. And 4 months after it started, they said they're no longer going to support the game and they're going to shut it down. So they sold these forever assets, you know, that are like, these last forever for a game that, oh, by the way, like we're no longer going to push updates for this game and we might shut the multiplayer servers down after you guys bought all this bullshit. And it was like not many months after too. So it's like, were you guys planning on shutting this shit down already? And this was just a last second cash grab? Like, but yeah, that's their first
Ubisoft
foray into NFTs. And then they also had that thing on Wax kind of where it's like the Ubisoft incubator project that I don't know what if anything ever happened with it. Pretty much seemed like a shittier version of what's that game that was on? The purple one. I'm forgetting, but we demoed it on the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't seem to have good intentions in the space is my point. Like the way they got into the space is basically a crazy cash grab that didn't understand like what NFTs are. It's like they're supposed to be things that last like for a long time. Or if they announce like, hey, these NFTs you bought will work in our next game or something, that would have been cool. But like selling a bunch of NFTs to immediately be like, oh, by the way, like we're just stopping supporting this game is crazy.
So, yeah. Like never mind.
I do remember when Weezer launched their NFTs on Wax. I might still have.
I think I still have their packs too.
Let me see. I tried to sell them a long time ago, but I might still have.
I feel like I definitely still have some.
There are so many crazy rumors too. Like they're going to choose people who complete full sets to give concert tickets for the next tour and stuff. And like, I don't know how much of that is like done nefariously. Like someone just slips that in that's trying to sell more packs versus like. There's so much of that like in the Wax NFT space where it's like everything has a secret. Like, oh, if you buy this, it might also do this. Like, even though it's hush hush and not official. That sold a lot of NFTs. Uplift was big into that, where like everything was kind of like a secret that had more meaning and then ended up not.
Yeah, that's true. They love that. Oh, hype.
What was I had a Cell wallet that I'd probably transfer them to. This was me trying to get a percentage of the olive land trees that no longer do anything.
Yeah. That was also a while ago, but not that long ago.
It's Go Dro Drops. His name Go Dro Drops. It took me that long to remember the name. This is my Cell wallet where it's like I don't want this shit in my wallet. I want to sell all this stuff. Wax Arena, Ella Blobs, Graffiti Kings, Crypto Writer, Square Rooted, Trash Trade NFT.
I remember Ella Blobs. Ella Blobs are dope. But
what was I looking for? I already forgot.
To see if you have Weezer.
Yeah. No, I must have sold them. I bet if you look at my sold, they have been sold on this wallet though. Yep, here they are. Sold a standard pack for 87 cents on 1/4/2023.
Shit. What do they sell for now? Did you get out with a killing?
Somebody opened these. They sell for 40 cents. So yeah, I sold it for twice as much as it's worth now.
Damn.
Same amount of wax though, essentially.
Okay.
I swear I had more of these though. Let's see where I sent them from. That'll tell me where they would be if I still had more. So I bought a shit ton of these back when they came out. Trying to flip them, to be honest. I wasn't that interested. They were like, because the other thing is, this is an album that I don't like by Weezer. If it's for like the Blue album, I would have kept all of these. I would have been like, fuck yeah.
Oh.
Why does it not have? Oh, it's because we're not on the Stacks of Wax P. Is that my wallet? Must be. This must be another selling wallet. Oh, cb.bt.wam. Okay, so this was in my web wallet. They might be there if I have more. That also means I probably sold more on Stacks. No. So I got out of that one. Look at all these Brawlers golds I still have. Remember, and these were exciting and worth something.
Oh, yeah.
These used to be worth so much. It's crazy. If you go to like all time. When the game first dropped. They were selling for
yeah, dude, those
$20 a pop.
And you get them like every couple hours.
And now they sell for 24 cents a pop. I also have like 40 of them. If I could have sold that shit for $20 a pop, that would have been great. Yeah, it sucks that they pretty much made all the shit that you mined useless once the game came out. It's like, what was the point of all that stuff besides like, I don't know. All right, let's raid into someone. I think we'll probably stream next week for our next stream. If anyone wants to hang out in Discord between now and then, I think our bot is also broken, which is awesome. Let me fix that. Yeah. OBS or Streamlabs. It's weird that it just automatically shuts down sometimes. I've been doing this long enough that I know exactly what happened, but I don't know why it happens. So I'm going to fix it before we sign off. You have to do this like once every other month when you stream for whatever reason. The cloud bot just decides that it doesn't have permission to post on your channel, even though I changed none of the settings. Yeah, we'll probably stream next week. I'm also trying to figure out, like, I was thinking every other week, like 1 week we do tech, 1 week we do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be good.
But I sort of think it'd be nice if we could figure out how to fit it all into one show and then just do one show.
Yeah, I don't hate that either, actually.
What's happening right now? Cloudbot. The main issue with that is vetting the off-the-rails shit. Why? Okay, activate Cloudbot. There we go. Cloudbot is active. Yeah, the main issue is like we get those copyright things when we re-upload the thing. Just the way around that is you upload all of the videos beforehand. Like I take all of the videos that people submit, download them, put them into a new YouTube video and upload them. And if that gets flagged, then you know, like basically you check to see if it gets flagged beforehand. And if it does not, you can show it. And if it does, then you don't show it. But that's a lot of work. So
yeah,
haven't decided on that. That's what like Your Mom's House and like H3 and all of the big ones that do reaction videos is like you upload the video you're reacting to before you react to it to see if they copyright claim it. And because even if you can like not, even if you can get out of it, like just dealing with the copyright claim process, for big channels, it's an issue. Like it can take them weeks to get money. They make like thousands and thousands of dollars per episode, and people like us who have no support at YouTube, we're just not going to get any help if we get money or whatever. Anyway, don't know if anybody has any thoughts on a solution to that, but yeah, I don't know. And if we do that, we have to be faster at everything, like 45 minutes for tech, 45 minutes for that, and like I don't know, be more structured, but we'll figure that out if we want to do that in the future. For now, I think it'll be easier if we just switch off every other week. But I do think re-uploading the off-the-rail stuff would be fun. Those are always my favorite streams. And I'm not sure if people would like to watch them after we do them. But I feel like
Yeah.
there is replay value of like watching crazy fun videos. All right, I am
Yeah, I
rating
agree.
Sensei Bullrog. Have a fabulous evening, everybody. I will talk to you next week, or hit us up on Discord now that I posted the link. Bye.
See you.